all about love. Loving people, loving family, each other, yourself. Helping others and expecting nothing in return. But being ever so grateful for all that is around her and for any small token of generosity that is bestowed upon her. I'm sure many of us, if not all of us, have heard her say, "I'm the luckiest old lady in the world." She repeated this to me the other day after her 100th birthday celebration to the senior citizens. She told me on the phone that she was so happy that people love, respect, and appreciate her. She said, "I'm going to leave this world very happy." Aunt Mary is legally blind and deaf. She's 4 feet 2 inches tall. I think she's taller than that. And filled with love. Here's a typical Aunt Mary story. It was election day 2012. She gets a ride to the polls in order to cast her vote. She begins to enter the building and is greeted by someone saying, "Hi, Aunt Mary." She has no idea who it is, but knows that it's someone who knows her. It happens to be an attorney friend of Nick's who is working at the polls. He remembers coming over to Luzerne Street for parties and eating Aunt Mary's famous baklava. He takes Aunt Mary by the hand and stays with her while she votes in the most recent presidential election. She insists on voting because she knows her vote counts. Aunt Mary walks into church nearly every week, and everyone comes to greet her. Thanks to Buddy and Jimmy and Aunt Popey for taking her. She's like a celebrity. All who know her want to be around her to hear her stories and share her positive spirit. Her motto is to accept every invitation for a party or event that she's invited to. She exclaims, "If I'm still here, I'm going." Not only is she going, but if she's buying a new outfit, having it tailored thanks to my cousin Kathy, comes up to take her to the tailor. Maybe new shoes, and will be one of the best dressed people at the event for sure. I was elected to write this speech and give this speech. It's not an easy task. How do you tell the story of a 100-year-old icon, the oldest member of our family and of our community, a person who's an inspiration to all of us in 5 to 10 minutes? I think that is the amount of time that SandY has allotted on the agenda. The party planning committee, SandY Kathy. Anyway, this speech is a collaboration of thoughts and ideas from my cousins and my siblings, and in some cases their spouses, who have become such an important part of this family. Aunt Mary's story began on January 17, 1914, in Chios, Greece. She was born to Despina and George Louvados. Her father, George, had come to the United States at first without his family. After many years of being apart, he sent for his family. Aunt Mary came to America at age 6 on a steamship with her mother and her older sister, Sophie. At first, they lived in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, where her father had settled. A few months after they arrived, her father contracted tuberculosis and died after 6 months. My yaya Despina was an independent, capable woman. After her husband died, she asked her brother Stelios to help her move to New York with her 2 girls. She was a talented seamstress and knew she would be able to make a living there and take care of her girls. So with the help of her brother Stelios, he moved Aunt Mary, her mom, and the 2 girls to New York. They had an apartment on Oliver Street in Lower Manhattan. Aunt Mary, as a young child, witnessed murders and violence and was once saved by a mobster as she found herself an innocent bystander in the middle of a gang fight in the streets of New York. Here are some things going on in 1914, the year Aunt Mary was born. The first scheduled airline flight took place. Henry Ford introduced an assembly line for the Model T Fords. In Washington, D.C., the first stone of the Lincoln Memorial was put into place. The first successful blood transfusion took place. The U.S. Congress established Mother's Day as a holiday. Paramount Pictures was formed and the Greyhound Bus Company began. Babe Ruth made his first baseball debut. The Foxtrot was danced for the first time at the new Amsterdam Roof Garden in New York City. World War I began. The first continental phone link was made between New York City and San Francisco. The first traffic light was installed in Cleveland, Ohio, at Euclid at least 105th Street. The Panama Canal opened. The U.S. Post Office first used an automobile to collect and deliver mail that year. A gallon of milk in 1914 was 29 cents a gallon. But probably the most significant thing about 1914, besides the birth of this amazing woman, was the person who was Secretary of Treasury for the United States government. His name was William Gibbs McAdoo. Late Uncle Ed McAdoo. I bet you can't guess who I am. From the first commercial flying plane to seeing a man land on the moon, Aunt Mary has been there to witness it all. This past Thanksgiving at the McAdoo's house, Aunt Mary was in her usual storytelling mood. She was remarking about her life, saying that she started on a donkey, then traveled on a ship to America, then advanced to flying in a plane, to seeing a man land on the moon, and now Faye's talking to your smartphone and asking questions when you need information. She has seen it all, and now knows that when she doesn't know the answer to something, she just turns to one of us and says, ask your phone. She will even tell you exactly what to say to do a proper Google search. I'm serious. She was alive to witness the first Model T Ford to the latest Tesla Motors Model T electric luxury car. In 1914, the first Edison diamond disc phonograph was invented. Just a side bit, Serena is looking at, Aunt Mary has a stereo in her house with a phonograph in it, and Serena wrote a story about it, and she said, the record scratcher. That's what she thought the phonograph scratcher. Aunt Mary has witnessed the first TV set, the combination TV stereo to the first computer, to the internet, cellular phone, Facebook. Marcus believes she has an alias on Facebook and often posts about her latest interests. She loved school and always regretted not advancing in her studies. She was always a good teacher and still is. She taught many of us how to bake and crochet. She currently conducts English lessons with Nicole and has taught her a lot. Aunt Mary has made it her life's purpose to take care of people. From her siblings when they lost their parents, to her in-laws, to the Nichols children, Uncle John, and anyone who ever needed help. Aunt Mary has been here for all of us. Okay, I made it pretty far. She is the one constant in many of our lives that never changes, who is always there to listen with a kind ear and be the voice of reason when all else fails us. She's a beautiful, kind-hearted, generous woman who loves life, flowers, pretty things, and always has a smile on her face. She takes care of all of us. She has pride and taught us to be proud of who we are. She's a true Christian in every sense. What would we ever do without her? If you're fortunate enough to get upgraded to Aunt Mary's guest suite, you will be treated like a king or queen. At 100, she will be sure to wake up before you, prepare a breakfast of coffee, homemade baksimanya. Yes, she still bakes and cooks. She cooked this week. She made spanakopita and baklava and I don't know what else. Feta cheese and lots of great conversation. All this will take place at the dining room table, the famous place where Uncle George would sit at the head of the table and hold court. To this day, you will find a beautiful, framed, candid picture of Uncle George taken by my brother Nick, not me making it, I did go, where he seems to be talking to you and looking right at you, as alive as ever. The picture sits next to a vase of fresh flowers replenished daily from the Luzerne Street garden, when possible, by Aunt Mary as a commemoration and symbol of love for him, and as their never-ending love story continues. Aunt Mary married Uncle George in Leslie on April 16, 1939 in Baratta, Pennsylvania. This is an excerpt from my mom's book of essays about our family. In this story, my mom describes her feelings about her sister Mary, and this is what she wrote. Fortunately, in 1939, someone very positive entered my life. George Glezos, my sister Mary's husband. Mary was always an important part of my life. Mary was 10 years older than George, our brother, and 12 years older than me. She would take George to school to show him off on days when it was permissible to take younger siblings. On Christmas Eve, she would use all her spending money to go out and buy presents for George and me, so that we would have as many presents like the American children. Our parents barely used to the fact of Santa Claus, and although they bought us some gifts, they did not believe in going overboard. Mary saw to it that we had a real American Christmas. Here are some passages Mom wrote about Mary and George. Mary and George fell in love. Mary was a beautiful, tiny, slender girl full of life. She was almost 1 foot shorter than George, who was tall and handsome with dark wavy hair. They both loved to sing and dance. Mary was one of the best dancers in our community. They were both hard workers, loved people, and life itself. It was a beautiful love story. George and Mary got married April 16, 1939. When they wrote the invitations, they used the church records and invited every person in the community. It must have been one of the first fancy weddings of our time. Everyone was very enthusiastic over the upcoming wedding. Women, for some unexplained reason, felt they must wear evening gowns at the wedding. And they all did. Groups of families would get together to buy crystal, china, etc., so that everything matched. It wasn't like today when the bride picked out certain items. The guests actually picked the items, and they were beautiful. This cooperation between families to buy wedding gifts resulted in there being no duplications. In the end, their new apartment was fully furnished down to the humble cabin. Aunt Mary and Uncle George's home was always filled with people, laughter, singing, Uncle George playing the mandolin, good food, and dancing. We all would gather together in this small home. Aunt Mary, Uncle George, my parents, Deb and Nick, Big Nick, SandY, Little Mary, Kathy, me, Yaya, and Uncle Gordon. Dad and Uncle George would bring food home from the restaurant, and we would eat in 2 shifts. First the 7 children, and then the adults, while all the kids sprawled out on the Aunt Mary's floor to watch TV. On many nights, even more relatives would come over to eat or have coffee. Mornings, Vasiliadis, Engelsons, Easton, Cantini, everybody. Somehow, we always had room for everyone, no matter how small the house. We had so many wonderful times together as a big Greek family. We all admire Aunt Mary. Nothing stops her. She never lets life get her down. She's an inspiration to all of us. She never lets illness or blindness stand in her way. She baked, crocheted, cooked, danced, drove, worked in the restaurant, getting up at 4 a.m., and in factories to provide for all of us. We never lacked for anything because of Aunt Mary. She taught us how to love and be in love, how to try and please our spouses, and how to love, overlooking any flaws in our spouses, relatives, and friends. She always sees the best in everyone. She taught us the importance of dressing and looking attractive for our partners, the importance of love in a marriage and in our family, the rule of never going to bed angry, how to stick together and support each other through good times and difficult ones, how to count on each other during the hard times, and be there for one another to pick up the pieces no matter how large they may be. Aunt Mary has been a wonderful aunt to all of us, a mother to the Nichols children, Nick, SandY, Mary, and Kathy, a loyal sister to her siblings, George, Sophie, and especially to my mom, Hopi. As she sat diligently at her side for some years. She's a great sister-in-law to Manuel and Aunt Hopi, Borges, a godmother to at least 8 people, was a loyal Baratta, and a dear friend to so many people. She has been a role model to all of us. She shows how to keep our cool and make good decisions even during times of crisis. She taught us how to be good to each other and take care of one another. To keep living life to its fullest, even when you think you cannot go on. To stay positive, even when life is throwing you curveballs. She taught us the meaning of loyalty to your spouse, your siblings, your family, your friends. To accept each other with all our good and all of our shortcomings. She has taught us all the true meaning of family and appreciation for one another. How to take care of one another and showed us how to put all others before yourself. She's a true humanitarian and an inspiration to all of us. We love you, Aunt Mary, and may you live many more years filled with good health, laughter, and loving families surrounding you. We thank you for all you have given us and love you forever.